mansion.
Right.
He realizes he's in different clothes. He asks who changed him out, and Amelia reveals it was her and says, "Don't worry, you don't have to be ashamed. It was splendid," and walks out of the room. And it broke Kyle's and Wolf here.
Wait,
completely.
is that actually in the web novel?
Yes.
Web novel. But that's so
I feel mad. We missed the chance for there to be an official English dub of Subaru going, "Wait a minute, she looked at my dick?"
Hello, everyone. Kyle's here. And just before we get into this very wonderful interview with Sean Chiplock, I just wanted to take a moment to thank Sean, if he's watching this, for giving us the time of day to chat with us. He was wonderful to talk to. I hope you guys enjoy this interview. And please, 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 please give Sean and the Dubcast all the love they deserve this season. They've done an amazing job with season 3 so far. So here's to the rest of season 3, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Bye! Also, please excuse me being absolutely fucking nervous for the entire hour. I was shitting myself. Okay, bye. Okay, well, I'm pressing record now because now you started interviewing us before we even interviewed you. So, just in case we get too deep and I forget to press record and then ruin everything, that would not be good because I don't want you to have to redo that for us. Anyone else have a fun memory for him?
What?
For our reading the web novel, you asked what our favorite moments were.
Yeah.
A lot of it actually has to do with the current season that you're, recording and stuff right now. So I don't know how far,
How far are you?
Yeah, how far you know.
Well, for the most part, I only know what the anime has shown, or I guess I should say I cheat ahead by looking at the Japanese episode before I go into record for it. There are some aspects that I have come into knowledge about just from curiosity and reading the pages about, especially the Sin Archbishops. So, I know things about Aldebaran, for example. I understand, what some of the upcoming Sin Archbishops are. I'm very, very, very surprised that Sirius has been around for as long as she has, and we still don't have confirmation on whether she's Fortuna. That is so strange to me.
At least you know the fan theory. That's been floating around for years.
That's not even a fan theory at this point. That's fan fucking confirmation. There's if Tape came out and said, "JK guys, it's not Fortuna," I think there'd be a revolt. I think his office would be burned down. It's so obvious.
No, what do you mean?
Yeah, that's what we all thought when we finally saw a clip from season 3 and saw, it's just straight up silver hair, Amelia's eyes, and elf ears. There's no doubt anymore.
He's gonna have a reveal where Sirius is like, "You want to know who I am?" And everyone's like, "We know who you are. You're Fortuna." And she pulls her bandages off, and it's Aldebaran. He goes, "Sorry, brother, your stars were bad."
So you actually do know stuff about Aldebaran. Then
I've
You've seen the spoilers?
I've asked some questions of people that know more than I do, just out of curiosity.
Well, what's very interesting about that? The anime doesn't even, for example, in season 1, there should be a scene where Aldebaran explains that he's from a different world. That hasn't happened in the anime yet, so everybody who's anime only has no clue about who this character is.
That's interesting. Really interesting. Is there any crazy fan theories that Al is somehow a future version of Subaru or something like that? Or
so many.
There's
Our
so many
favorite one is that
theories.
he's his dad right now.
Yeah.
That's what we're banking on.
Oh my God. So wait, how could but that suggests that either because Subaru. Oh, okay, that's true.
Yes.
When we started in episode 1, we never saw his parents in episode 1, so we don't know at what point in life he's at when that happens.
He's cooking.
And there's weird timey things, for example, what is up with, if you go by the theory that Satella is somehow Amelia in some way, past and present starts to make less sense, and then you could say that stuff like that could happen.
And then there's the theory that Subaru is actually either a reincarnation or a version of Flugel, if I remember that correctly.
Oh yeah, that's another big part of it.
I don't know much about Flugel, so my knowledge and my theory crafting starts and ends there. It's Subaru might be Flugel.
I know this character's name.
And you're like, how do you feel about that? And I'll be like,
honestly, neither do we.
Yeah.
Giant mystery still.
Yes, there's still a huge question mark.
All I know is ReZero obviously has such good animation because Aldebaran's existence meant that they were collecting residuals from Jujutsu Kaisen for about 5 years after it came out. So that's where all the extra money is going. That's why we can have 2D dragons. instead of CGI.
Yes,
That
the 2D dragons.
dragon.
So
We were
gorgeous.
so happy.
Can we talk
Wow.
about how fucking cool those expressions are from Capella in episode 54? Like, for real.
Insane.
Oh,
The disgust look, the confusion look, the what the hell is happening right now look. Like, I can't believe they managed to make a dragon's face make that much sense while still looking scary. It doesn't look comedic when she looks disgusted. She looks genuinely upset and confused, but without it becoming comedic.
Absolutely. It's so good. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just, yeah. The CGI dragons we always see are so trash that I was almost expecting. I'm like, yeah, it's okay. That's fine. Everything's been beautiful so far. And they hit us with that. And I don't even have any words. That made it 10 out of 10 for me for that episode.
We were laughing for probably a solid 6 minutes straight at her confused look when he's just ranting to her about like his whole distraction before Julius fires it off, and she just has the complete baffled look. It's total highlight of what they've done. It's beautiful.
So the dub only has the first episode out right now, correct?
Sorry, what was that again?
The dub, it only has the first episode out right now, right?
Yes, only the first episode, to my knowledge, is live right now.
Okay. So I guess
You all did a great job. I mean, it's been a while since.
I'm trying so hard not to beat myself up about it because, like, for
What?
example, well, let me pull back a little bit. So, when season 2 came out, I did not watch it for several years. I actually saw all of season 2 for the first time a couple weeks or about a week before I started recording for season 3. And there were a couple reasons for that. One was because obviously COVID had happened. We'd recorded from home. I didn't know how it sounded when I was recording from home. And I've learned that I really, really enjoy going into studios to record because just something about the way that the headphones in studios feed my own voice into me. I'm able to hear myself more clearly and I like what I'm hearing. So I get more confident versus when I'm recording at home. And I was just so nervous that it wasn't going to sound as good that I didn't want to listen. I didn't want to confirm the risk that my performance wasn't as good in season 2. It was like Schrodinger's Subaru. And it's part of why I ended up sobbing when I was streaming it to my Discord community. I ended up sobbing over Discord, like telling them I'm so scared, I'm so excited, I'm so nervous about this. I love this character so much. And it's true at this point when people ask, and I'm sorry, this is going to be a really long answer, but I promise it's going to be really fun as a result.
Go ahead.
When people often ask me, what's your favorite role that you've played? And my answer to that is still, I can't pick favorites because it is unfair, one, to people who may know me from different roles to say, well, that role's okay, but this one is my absolute favorite. What I can say truthfully is that if the question is, which role has had the most impact on you? By now it is absolutely Subaru because I watching over season 1 again because I watched that a third time. When he has that scene with Amelia where she's like, why did you look to protect me? Why are you doing this for me? And he goes, you don't get it, Amelia. I'm impulsive. I want what I want in that moment, and that's all that matters to me. And I'm going to do what I can to make it happen. And I would had this moment of going, holy fuck. Subaru is me, for better, for worse, his emotions, everything. He's a performer. He's comedic. He plays things up. He's the jokester. He tries to make friends because he's scared about being left behind. He's impulsive because rather than trying to think about what he wants, he just focuses on what needs to be done in the moment. He gets in over his head. He feels loyal to people that have been nice to him and hates when bad things happen to those people. I could go on for another 2 minutes about all of these qualities that he represents that I identify with. But that's what makes it so fucking terrifying is when you identify so hard with a character, when you identify so much with a character, there is this sense of, what if I feel this connected to someone and I still don't manage to represent it as well as I know I can.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was, and I'm not bitter about this, but this is a perfect example. There was an audition I did for Persona 3 Reload, which was a character who had a terminal illness. And I lived that experience. My mother died from an unavoidable terminal illness. This is public knowledge. So I'm going into this audition going, obviously I'm not going to say I must be cast as this character, but I feel like I have an understanding of the fear and panic that goes into that experience that not a lot of people have, because I watched my mother go through that. And then I didn't book it, which left me feeling like, do I understand what it's like to have a terminal illness? You know, like it's when you understand something, or when you feel like you understand something so much, and then you aren't able to, I guess in this case, book a role that represents that, it can leave you feeling like maybe I don't get it, or maybe I'm such a bad actor that even when I have that experience, that real life experience, I'm not able to authentically represent it. So where that ties into season 3. So obviously, season 1 to season 2 took way less time than season 2 to season 3. And I'm older, let's be real. You know, Subaru may still be barely 1 year older, but I'm 5-6 years older from the last time that we had this. I don't know how my voice might have changed. I don't know how stuff might have developed. I don't know how, if screaming over the years may have affected my vocal quality.
Right.
I often worry, like, as an example for Eden Zero, if Eden Zero came back for season 2, I am genuinely worried about my ability to replicate that character voice, because Shiki is even higher pitch as a natural bass than Subaru is, and yelling as Shiki is really fucking difficult. So, like, my voice has to be at 100% for me to yell cleanly as Shiki. If it's at even like 90%, there's going to be squeakiness. It's going to happen. So coming back for season 3, I'm like, okay, I wrote about this at length on my Twitter, where I was like, okay, I went back and I listened to these performances, and even in season 2, I was like, oh man, there's some really creative choices that I made where I don't even think they match the JP exactly, but they feel so right in this moment and they feel fitting to the character. But also, I've come a really long way in 5 to 6 years. Over the course of COVID, I learned to incorporate breathing in my performances. I know that sounds stupid, but there is a difference between going, I can't believe they did that to us, and can't believe they did that to us. You know, that kind of thing.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's a huge difference. But is it, if I implement that, are people going to be like, this sounds different. This doesn't sound like how I remember it being. But also, is age going to play a factor? And am I going to remember how high pitch I made Subaru? Like, am I in the right pocket? Do I make him sound older because he's been through a lot? Do I still want him to sound younger because he's way younger than I am? And then it's that didactic of, and I mentioned, this is the part I mentioned on Twitter, do I try and honor the performances, the really creative choices that I made by studying what I did in the past? Or do I rely on my growth as an actor and my natural instincts and try not to rely on what I did in the past, because that could lock me into a performance instead of giving me the chance to do something unique and surprising in a good way? Or do I try and balance that with the knowledge of, if it doesn't turn out right, it's locked in on the dub forever, you know? Like, that's probably one of the scariest parts of voice acting is, and this is why I try to care about every single goddamn job that I do, is it's, if I do a great job, awesome. If I do a horrible job, like if it's a crying scene and my crying sounds super fucking forced, it's there forever. And everyone who listens to that episode is going to hear that performance. So that's where all that fear came from, is, oh my God, everyone's talking about the big speech. Everyone's talking about Arc 5. Everyone's talking about this season. Am I going to be able to come in and, in the limited time span that I have on each single line, the 2 to 3 takes probably max that I'm given, am I going to be able to not only honor my own past quality, but honor the present quality of the JP performance?
Absolutely. I can't like 110% fully relate because I'm not on the official dub at all. Right. But as someone that has played Subaru in some capacity, I completely understand that feeling of, I relate to this guy so much in a way that I want to feel that my performance for him is getting across something that's deeper than me just saying these words, right? Right. And it can get really scary sometimes, and that self-doubt can come in of like, how do I do this right? Not just for me, but for the people watching. It's a lot of pressure, and I imagine it's very stressful. But I can assure you, Sean, you do not only an amazing job, but also, what I'll say is this, right? I think for a character like Subaru, obviously, as best you can, voice consistency is what you've got to do. But he's a character that grows a lot and is a character that's way more focused on the emoting that comes with him rather than a specific unique voice. And I think
that's part of, without interrupting for too much, that's part of why I try not to read too far ahead. I kind of subscribe to the Mark Hamill school of acting, where it's like there is such a thing as giving yourself too much knowledge, and then you don't give yourself the chance to react with authenticity in your emotion. So
yes, and it's a thing of where I'm very impressed that you're able to do with Subaru what you can do, but then also be able to say, you know, there's always ways I can improve, or there's always ways that I can bring what I've learned over the years into it. And I think it's an amazing opportunity, right? To take this character that you've been with for a long time and take them even further.
Right.
And the truth is that evolving quality of Subaru is kind of intrinsic to his character. So in other roles where, you know, it might feel nice to have them at a very succinct, you know, like temporal place, right? Like have the flow of their development in your head. Really, his growth is fluctuating so much throughout the arcs of the story, I should say.
Right.
That it just makes so much sense for you to feel the honest truth. Like, as you said before, there's a great performance from the Japanese voice actor of Subaru that you have the ability to compare and watch. Right. You know, and the truth is that he is such a character, Subaru, in my mind, that it represents more than just him as a character, that your truth that you can convey through Subaru is more important than trying to match his performance.
Right.
I think that's what we always feel.
I think an example of that, here's a distinct difference that I know that I made. In episode 1, you can actually go back and listen to it tonight. When he's talking with Beatrice and then he gets the message that Amelia is looking for him, in the JP, you can hear that he just he does his typical musing of, huh, that's interesting. And now Amelia's asking for me too. That's a little suspicious. You know, something like that. But in the English, you can probably tell that I'm like, now Amelia is asking for me too. That seems a little suspicious. You know, like that's just kind of being playful with it. So that's one of those cases where I end up making a choice of like, okay, when Subaru is feeling in good spirits, when he's in a good position, when he feels confident, how do I feel that translates into his personality? And those are the kinds of risks that I take. And I promise I'm not trying to make this podcast into me seeking support and validation from it. I know, but it's not just about me. It's about, so one of the things that I often say is the only reason why English dubs can exist in the first place is because of you guys, the audience, the supporters, the creatives, and especially, you may think, oh, nowadays it's even more imperative for English dubs to exist. And I would agree with you if it was only on the grounds of accessibility. But consider the following. Ooh. Japanese and foreign media in general has exploded in audience. You have Netflix streaming things like Ultimate 100, like those wrestling competitions, like a lot of shows that are just subtitled and nothing else. And that's the thing. There are even more shows than ever before that are subtitled and nothing else, with rare exceptions. Because this isn't the 90s anymore, where people were like, foreign media, I'm a red-blooded American. I don't want to hear anything that isn't talking about good old American English. Right. And because there's such a wider audience, I feel, this is my unprofessional personal theory, I would not be surprised if a lot of companies are play testing the idea of how much in profit do we lose if we just publish this media as Japanese or as its native language with subtitles? And is the amount that we lose more than we would spend producing the English dub? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, completely.
So I would not be surprised if there's a lot of cases where companies go, yeah, we could localize this in English, but if there isn't already precedent for it, I think we could try just having it with subtitles and see how that does. And so we are in a position where I am blessed anytime that I get to work on an English localization of something, because that means either because of the company's interest or because they feel that there is enough of a public interest, they believe that there is justification for an English dub to exist. So that is just me partially countering by saying, yes, I'm not going to deny that a good English cast is integral to any English dub. But I also don't think my career could exist at all if there wasn't the public interest in it in the first place.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And I think it's like, I don't know. It's just so wonderful to have a dub community as well, like with the ReZero dub. Just seeing how much you guys love it and always work so hard every single time with such a sometimes volatile community too. You guys always push through. So even though, yeah, we support it by watching and everything, I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that you guys work so damn hard to constantly revolutionize the voice acting like scene, because it's so different now than it used to be.
That's the other side of it. Well, I hesitate in my explanation of why I feel it's different because I do not want to poo-poo or condescend towards the veterans that helped establish the industry.
Oh, of course.
Let's give credit where credit is due. This shit wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the tireless people recording shows that very few people watch compared to today for no other reason than because they love the craft. However,
God, is it good still?
Exactly. Dude, Inuyasha holds the fuck up. Like,
oh
seriously.
My gosh, yeah.
If you go back and watch Inuyasha, knowing that they were probably doing it to like the tape cutting measures that they had to do back then, obviously maybe the lip flaps aren't perfect, but it almost sounds more organic and natural than some dubs you hear nowadays. It's really impressive. But all that to say, one of the other things that I often comment is great things happen when passionate people come together. It's not one passionate person that makes an amazing project. You need people who share that vision, who care just as much. Nintendo is a very big proponent of this as well because they have a very big no lone wolf work culture. Where it's like it's never one person's job that something did well. It's everyone's efforts that came together successfully. And nowadays you have, I mean, I'm a perfect example. 15 years ago, oh my God, 15 years ago, I was staying up late until 3 in the fucking morning on MapleStory and Neopets. Now it's just Neopets. Doing my dailies, listening to Full Metal Alchemist and Cowboy Bebop and Trigun and Outlaw Star and all of those anime that made me feel things for characters I probably shouldn't discuss here. And
don't worry, we're G-Gen too.
Then discovering voice acting and being like, I could be a part of this. And whether it's Alex, whether it's Zeno Robinson, whether it's Alejandro, whether it's myself, whether it's Kimlin Tran, whether it's Kira Buckland, all of these people that I've grown up alongside, all of these are people who grew up with this shit going, oh my God, this is the coolest fucking thing ever. And now they're in the booth helping create that for the next generation. And what all that means to say is you've got engineers who like what they're working on. You've got directors who have been in the game for decades. You've got voice actors who are frothing at the mouth to be a part of this. I remember when I posted on Newgrounds going, before I die, I want a voice in an anime. It wasn't even a lead role. It was just, I want to be in an anime. I can be dude at convenience store who goes, what was that? And I can die. I'll be happy, you know? So now you have all these extremely passionate people who literally grew up with anime in the booth helping to produce the content for the next generation. And it's not surprising that the overall quality has gone up because I promise you, regardless of the flame wars on the internet, no one is more of a bully to us than ourselves.
Absolutely.
So I was trying to figure out where I was going with that, but my rant kind of...
But as you were saying...
I interrupted, I'm sorry.
Yeah. All
here I am going, I don't know if I can do the Subaru speech well in episode 5 after doing that for the last 5 minutes.
No, you're making a very salient point. I mean, all the people you mentioned, those people that, you know, I'm pretty young, but those are the voice actors of the modern day that I've kind of really admired in their performances, the people that you mentioned. And seeing them, you know, and, you know, everybody trying to make a better community for voice actors has really, I mean, there's definitely a more serious nature to, and I think people are more, as you said, passionate about their performances than ever before. And I think that quality, you know, there's just a sense of honesty about it nowadays. I feel like beforehand, a lot of people just didn't really understand what they were doing or didn't really care about it too much. It was just sort of supplemental for acting. But nowadays, you know, there's people who just want to be voice actors, and they really elevate and try to be not only, as you said, like people who just voice act things, but people who adapt the story into English, you know? And I think that's a good interpretation of it culturally. You know, everybody's passionate, the sound engineers, everybody. And I think that really shows.
I completely agree. And I think it's so cool that we all get to contribute to this. And I'm trying to figure out how to word this. I try to, well, no, because like...
I can always edit things, by the way. You can just...
Well, no. I mean, the process of thought is also fun in its own regard. That's what gives it the podcast feel. If everything's perfect, then we just, I don't know, we sound too rehearsed or something like that.
Nobody...
Yeah, like we're not human beings with our own things going on. We're just people that speak into the mic.
Yeah, I'm scuff as hell, so...
This is definitely a non sequitur, but when I'm at conventions and people talk about, oh my God, I'm so grateful that you guys are in the scene because you're so good at what you do, I'm very quick to go, well, just be careful that you don't make us into celebrities or put us on pedestals because this is not gonna make any sense, or it's gonna make a ton of sense. Whenever I'm at a convention table, I am thinking about the people who built the building that the convention is being held in. I think about the people who put in the lighting that allows people to look at my prints. I think about the people who put in the AC system so that when it's 105 degrees outside at this Texas convention, it's still 85 degrees in the convention center, and I'm not dying because people put that in. I think about all of the unsung, unnamed people who work equally, if not more important jobs than my own, who don't get the recognition and praise they deserve because their job happens to not be as public as mine. So I think it is in the same breath that I'm like, yeah, it's really cool that this is a more public-facing career now and that voice acting is being recognized. I'm also just as quick to go, I hope that people don't look down upon their own careers and go, oh, what I'm doing is not as cool as what Sean is doing. Because in many ways, I feel like entertainment is a luxury more than it is a necessity. Yes, it is important. It's important for people to feel like they have something to look forward to. But in terms of a functioning society, I don't think English dubs are very high on the totem pole.
Yeah,
so, that is fair.
But you know what? That's a good question. How long have you kind of fostered this sense of, as you were kind of like explaining it, like this overall sense of gratitude that you have for your position here?
Sorry, was that a question you asked? If so, repeat it again for me.
Yeah, sorry. So like how long you're talking about, like how you go to these conventions and you feel like, oh, there's everybody working so hard around me. I'm in a very privileged position. How long have you really felt that sense of gratitude for
all the time?
Your opportunity?
Like, so look at it this way. I'm gonna throw my wife under the bus a bit, but it will immediately become clear. So my wife works a salaried position, so 40 plus hours a week, because salary doesn't technically have set hours. There's set hours that they work each day, but there's the extra stuff that they have to do. She works 40 hours a week to often make barely the same amount per week that I make off of a 4-hour video game session. Actually, that was more true back when video games were $200 an hour. Now they're $250. If I work is it $250? Yes. If I work a union video game for 4 hours, which is about $1,100 and change, I take home about the same as she does after working 40 hours. So that is, and she doesn't get invited to conventions for her job that she does. She doesn't have people asking for her to autograph their homework that that they did. So not only am I getting paid about the same that she does for 1/10 of the time investment, granted, I know that we can do the whole argument about the years that I've spent training voiceover, but let's be realistic. She's also spent that time in school, in training. She's working on her master's degree right now. So let's nullify the whole argument about time spent in your career. So not only am I making about the same as she does with 1/10 of the work, there are weekends where people pay me, fly me out, give me a hotel room, give me table space, hype me up for 2 to 3 days while I sell my autograph to people, which granted, it's not just about the autograph, it's about the experience. And I try to make it a unique, fun, memorable experience for people, and I think I've done a good job of that. But the fact that I can sit at a table for the equivalent of about 16 hours over the course of a weekend and come home with more money in that weekend in sales of autographs than she and I made combined working during the week is dumb as fuck. It is. Or I'm not going to call it dumb, but I'm going to say it is something that I must be cognizant of. This is not normal. People do not get to make their living in this way. And I am extremely lucky to be in a position where not only am I able to do this in the first place, but to be able to do it full time. I don't know if you know this, but I forget whether this is specific to acting or to voice acting, but 14% of people in my industry do it often enough successfully that they can do it as their sole source of income. 14%. That means that 86 percent of people going through all of my same struggles, going through all of my same workshops, going through all of the things that I go through as an actor, also have a second income on top of it in order to make ends meet, while I'm here traipsing around doing this full time and getting to travel to conventions like it's nobody's business. So it's a very long-winded roundabout answer to your question of how long have you felt about this, when my answer is honestly, I have felt it from day one, perhaps more than most, because I look at folks like Alejandro, who's also a content creator, folks like Kyle McCarley, who also do directing, folks like Alex Lay, who are the handsomest fucking people on the planet. And I think to myself, what do I have outside of voice acting? And maybe I'm poo-pooing myself, but when I think about how much time I've spent on VO and how dedicated I've been to VO and how little I do outside of VO, because really all I do outside of VO is streaming in terms of stuff that could bring me income, and I am not making net positive on streaming. If I were to lose voice acting, I do not know what my backup would be. I have not trained in other skill sets like artistry or content creation or VTubing or stuff like that. Do I think I would be able to eventually? Sure, but I'm simply speaking in terms of if tomorrow I woke up and AI had completely taken over VO, I would not immediately have something I could fall back on and say, okay, now I'm going to make this my full-time thing. And that's fucking scary because it means I need to keep doing what I do as well as I do it if I want to keep doing it. So
yeah, and that's a lot of pressure.
But I honestly think that you knowing that or having that attitude is a quality that speaks that I think you'd probably be pretty fine if you were not a voice actor, just because you have a good head on your shoulders, it seems.
I think also, too, it's nice to know that there are people that we cheer for and work so hard in the industry that really have this, like, concept of the world around them. And you're not a hot-headed person who's like very, the ego has gotten to you. You are a very like grounded person who is very, I guess you're very self-aware of your position, but also I don't think you should poo-poo yourself at all because you work hard and that hard work pays off in like how well you do. And the reception you get too. I mean, it speaks for itself with all your work that you do. And just seeing the kind of person you are, even like with your online interactions, you just seem emanate the kindness.
Those have been a mixed bag. Yeah, I'm sure.
True. I should make it all like that, but
everybody gets over scrutinized, but voice actors seems to get it almost the worst, is what or at least most content creators, and you're adjacent to that in a weird way.
Right.
Also, shout out to your wife for working that salary career. It sucks. I hate my career, but you got to pay the bills.
What do you do, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm a teacher, and I just finished my last shift at Starbucks tonight. I was doing both, and I am on a hiatus, but I'm trying to get into voice acting myself.
Have you been auditioning for things, or are you like just looking for that opening to just jump in?
Took a break. I have a manager locally now, which is lovely. Had to take a break just to get back into the school year, but I'm doing online auditions, in-person auditions, and hopefully we will be looking into moving to the States because we're Canadian. So, I'm Canadian, and then Wolf here got dragged up to Canada. But we're looking into the States because, like you said earlier, just being in the studio it's much more, not only is it a better way to perform, but it's also much better for companies too. They'd rather hire people that are nearby rather than online, because it is a lot harder to do remote work.
It's a thing too of I can understand where you're coming from, Sean, of the recording in the studio, having that specific setup and being able to fully hear what you're saying in the way that like you can grasp immediately helps so much. Because when I'm recording at home for anything ever, I don't know if it's just because I've got both headphones on or something, but I just can't fully in my mind picture what have I just said and how have I said it and is that adequate? So then I spend about 30 minutes looking through all of my recordings, just like, did I do this right? And then I'm going to do it, another 10 takes, which you don't, I guess, in a way, because of the pressure, get the luxury of in that studio, right? So you have to be snappy and on it at all times.
Ooh, that kind of sorry, I have a random question. With voice acting, on average, how many takes do you get to get a line right? And how often have you gotten it first time, boom, right out the bat?
Well, as a standard, we will often do a bare minimum of 2 takes. Like if we fucking nail it on the very first take, which I promise you, there have been cases where there have absolutely been cases, including in season 3 of ReZero, where I've done the first take and they go, all right, great, give us a safety. And I do the second take and then immediately go, please use the first take. I like that one better. You know, it happens sometimes. Sometimes you get exactly what you want on the first try and you try something a little different. You go, nope, didn't hit the same. So as a standard, we will generally go for 2 takes. However, based on production speed, based on, you know, if things are running behind schedule, based on the intensity of a line, we may keep it as low as 1 take, where if they got something that they really liked and it's a more intense line and it works, they may just go, unless you have any other ideas you really want to try out, this is perfectly fine, we're going to move on. As a good example, do any of you watch Beyblade X? Are you watching the new series?
No.
Okay. So I voiced number 0 in that. And number 0, who is an AI, not that kind of AI, but he's a program who is specifically programmed to be a hype man announcer for the matches, which means all of his lines are always at this intensity. Like they're all at that intensity. So Tony Oliver, who directs me on the show, he's mostly looking for, does it have the right amount of oomph to it? And especially, does it match the lip flaps? And if both of those things are met, it is 1 take and we move on. Because if I was doing 2 takes for every single one of those lines, my throat would be destroyed before we got to the end of the session.
Yeah, absolutely.
The most takes, this isn't what you asked, but the most takes I've ever had to do was 32. And it was for, this is so funny because it's the only project I've ever explicitly asked to not be credited on. It was a foreign film project, and for some reason, even though the Russian actor was very, I'm trying not to give away too many details. Even though the Russian actor was very low key, like very, what's the word? I'm trying to think of a good actor example. Clint Eastwood, kind of, like the very grizzled guy who's just, he's very introverted. You know, the female co-lead is supposed to be the one that breaks into a shell and gets him to warm up. But they were going for a very more exaggerated American hero style. And so there was a particular line where, I'll come up with a random example. So let's say the line is, let's say that she's annoying him and he's like throwing his fist down and he goes, you could try being grateful for me for once, something like that, where it's a little bit more, a little bit subdued. He's like holding back his anger. Right. And as we're doing these takes, trying to match the level of intensity on screen, the client is going bigger, needs to be bigger. It needs more emphasis on this. And I'm not shitting you. The final take, the one that they were like, that's what we wanted. This is the one that we're going for. The final take ended up sounding closer to something like, you could be grateful for me sometimes. Or something like I did not hit him, Mark. I did not.
Yes, that's exactly what that was reminding me of.
So it is the one time that when I was done with the session, like the engineer who was recording me started making tick marks on a sheet of paper and would hold up what take number we were on every time we did a new one. And that is the one and only time that when I was done, because normally when you go to sign a contract, it will say like, put your signature here, initial here if you do not want credit. Like companies will give you the option if you want to use a pseudonym or to opt out. This contract did not have it. So I had to ask the front desk to give me a Post-it note so that I could write, please do not credit me, and stick it onto the contract as I signed it.
Oh my God.
I was, imagine if Joker from the Batman animated series had been hired to play Joker in the live action film that just came out.
Oh, gee.
Yeah. How do you go home feeling after that? Do you think they casted me wrong, or did they? I know. What was it?
I know, and it can be tough to not get in your own head about it. So
that's really nice to know that what the actual reality is for most things, as opposed to that, because the one you just explained sounds like every CCC project I've ever been in, where it's like 32 takes later, they go for the wildest, most out-of-pocket take. And you're like, why'd you choose that one? I thought the first 12 were way better. That's right. Good to know. Yeah.
I guess as a segue into that in general, then, how did you get into voice acting in the first place? Out of curiosity.
How did I get into VL?
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is going to seem so stupid, but I swear to God, it's real. My brother and I, when we were way younger, like, dude, were any of you old enough to play Nintendo 64?
Yeah, I still have it.
I was.
Okay.
We're pushing 30, by the way.
Here's the deep cut, because if you know this game, you actually know more about me and my my hobbies than you might think. Did any of you play the second Bomberman game? Bomberman 64, The Second Attack?
No, but my dad did. I remember watching him play.
That fucking hurts. Don't ever say that again.
We rented it. We only own 2.
We rented it. You can't rent a game like that. That game takes more than a single weekend to beat.
Okay, well, we rented it for like 2 weeks. I don't know. He kept getting it from... What was it? Blockbuster? Yeah, it was Blockbuster back then.
You rented it for 3 days. You returned it after 2 weeks. And then your dad said, I'm sorry, we were out of country, and, I thought I could return it tonight, but they had me do 32 takes on this foreign action film, so... Anyway, so my brother and I, back during that era of Nintendo games where characters had dialogue, but they didn't have voices, or when the most voices they had was Banjo going...
Yeah.
I love that game. That was a good game.
My brother and I would sit on the couch, and for whatever reason, we would take turns dubbing the characters' lines. And despite doing this, I had absolutely zero idea what voice acting was. Like, I would do that and then watch Dexter's Lab and go,
oh, hell yeah.
That's
just the cartoon
voice.
speaking.
That is just the cartoon speaking. That is precisely it. That is exactly what it was. And I did not understand what voice acting was until, so I know we were all old enough to watch Adult Swim and Toonami.
Yes.
Do any of you remember when there was like this advertisement series that had like this blobby neon pastel character, and like the whole advertisement was him just going, AdultSwim.com.
Yes.
You should check it out. He's got
That's
games.
Good impression.
And shows. AdultSwim.com. Like it was so pointless. I'm so glad people remember it, because otherwise I was so scared people were like, were you high? Like, anyway, that commercial series pissed me the fuck off. I was so annoyed by it. And so I did what most people do when something is annoying them and they don't want to listen to it anymore. I did exactly what it told me to do. And I went to AdultSwim.com. And I'm browsing around, I'm playing games, be with you, that kind of game and stuff. And then I come across a video, and it says, view this sneak preview of the upcoming episode 33 or something of Trinity Blood. You all remember Trinity Blood?
Wow.
I remember
That's right.
the ads for it.
Twilight, if it was done well.
Damn, how could you do Twilight like that?
I know.
Shit.
And so I click it, and it turned out to be, it was a clip. It was about a 8-minute clip of the upcoming episode, but it was done in the style of like the MTV behind the music videos, where like little bubbles would pop up throughout the clip. And if you clicked on it, it would take you to like, it would either bring up a factoid about the episode of like the manga debuted in this year and was written by so-and-so. And one of them took you to a sub video of the recording process for that moment in the scene.
Oh,
wow.
And it was Troy Baker in the studio.
Wow.
Like literally, it was that 30-second clip. It was Troy Baker in the studio as they were dubbing the lines that happened in that point in the clip. And it was a 2-camera setup. They had one camera kind of doing an over-the-shoulder view of him, and they had a camera showing the anime, the scene that was being dubbed. And they weren't putting a filter on his voice. They weren't making it monstrous. There wasn't an echo. But the engineer's going, okay, here we go. Boop, boop, boop. And Troy Baker starts talking. And it's just Troy Baker. And like, sure, he's doing a little bit of a performance. He's putting on that slight transatlantic accent that a vampire might use when they're talking. But it's Troy Baker talking. And it's Troy Baker talking at the same exact moment that the character's lip flaps are moving. I can look at one screen and see him performing, and I can look at the other screen and see the voice in real time being applied to the lip flaps. And they do a take, and he goes, okay, he's a little bit closer, so we can make this a little bit more personal this time. Maybe pull back like 10, 20% of the energy, give it a little bit more teeth grit. He's not happy to see this guy. He does the second take. Again, matching the lip flaps, immediately hearing the difference in performance. I am sitting here at 3:13 in the morning on Christmas break, looking at this screen going, what is this? Like, I don't know what this is, but whatever it is, I want to be a part of it. Like I just knew. I knew in that moment that whatever the fuck this process was, I wanted to be where Troy Baker was. And I'm grateful that throughout the years, I had moments in my industry and moments in my performances that like reaffirmed that for me. But that was it. Like that was,
wow.
I jokingly call it Stockholm Syndrome. Or Stockholm Syndrome, VO, because this career still pisses me off at times, a lot of times. There's aspects about it that are frustrating. There's times where I don't know what the hell I'm doing. There's times where I send off 11 auditions in a single day, and I feel fucking proud of every single one of them that I've done, and not a single one of them books. You know, and I have to not only deal with the fact that I felt so good about what I did and still didn't get any of those darts to hit in the bullseye, but that I still have to suck it up and give just as much effort to the next 11 auditions, because if I stop caring, it's going to show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess
100%.
No matter how small, how big the role is, if you're doing it, you have to take it 100% every time.
But even then, sometimes we get taught in workshops, especially when it comes to commercials, care less. They're not saying don't give a shit, but they're saying if you put too much investment into it, it's going to sound like you're trying, like, oh my gosh, I really want this job. This would be so cool. I can do this emotion so good.
Really?
So they'll often say, like, throw it away. Don't care about it as much. Because if you act too much like it's too important to you, if everything is important, then nothing is. That's the big thing that they say. If every single moment is important, then nothing is important, because it's all at the equal intensity. You have to be willing to throw certain things away so that the moments that are important can really shine. You know, like when a character can't be yelling all the time, because that means when they are driven to yell, when they finally reach their breaking point, that's when people go, oh, fuck, something really important happened. You know what I mean? And that's something to finally tie all of this back into ReZero and to Subaru. That was something that like I was really insistent on when it came to his arguments against Roswell. Because if Subaru is just yelling the entire time at Roswell of how could you do this? You're a monster. You know, do you not care? If all he's fucking doing is yelling, then people are going to check out. They're going to go, oh, this is Subaru being upset about something. This is Subaru being vindictive about something. Another example that we can apply to the most recent episode that came out, I think about the scene with him and Julius, where Julius is like, thank you for overreacting on my behalf. And it could be easy for me to go, what do you mean reacting on your behalf? I only did it because they pissed me off. If you were mad, you should have done it. Just yelling the entire time. But my hope is that I was able to do a gradual buildup from annoyance to yelling, where he goes, I'm trying to remember the exact line where he's like, what do you mean reacting on your behalf? If you were annoyed, you should have said something too. The only reason I said something was because they pissed me off. You should have done that as well. You know, where it's a slight build. It's a small change. It's a small nuance. But to me, it makes a big difference between a character going through a thought process and letting the emotions drive what they say versus the character just immediately having an emotional feeling and carrying that same emotion throughout the entire scene. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess that even ties into what you were talking about with knowing too much about a character, right? Like sometimes you have to, it can't feel natural if you just immediately, I know immediately 100% everything he's thinking, saying here, and I'm going to make it flat throughout the entire line. And I'm not going to make it dynamic, and it's not going to feel right.
That actually reminds me of a question I was meaning to ask earlier, and is a good segue, so thank you for that, Wolf. For like in season 1, when we get to episode 18 and there's the huge speech on the rooftop about how much he hates himself and all the self-loathing and self-doubt and everything he's been bottling in, up until then, did you know that about him at all, that he was hiding like that darkness or that self-hatred within him? When you being like this upbeat. I don't think
I knew that he was hiding it, but it made sense once he said it, because like obviously we have the foreshadowing where he's transported to the different world and immediately assumes it's going to be like Konosuba, you know?
Yeah.
Or no, Konosuba is another example where the character doesn't get powers, right?
Yeah.
Or it's going to be like that's right, in another world with my smartphone or stuff like that.
Yeah, that level of it.
You know, anime that take it just a little bit extra, just a little bit over the top.
Power fantasies.
Fast food
I love that goofy shit.
Right. And the more he learns about the world, the more he realizes anything that I accomplish, I'm going to have to work for myself. But then also deals with the fact of sometimes, no matter how much I do, it doesn't matter because other people have to get involved before something actually happens. You know, I didn't survive the Maw Beast attack. It was Rem who helped fight them off until I was able to escape with Rom or something like, or Rom who fought them off until I could escape with Rem. I forget what the order is on that. So even that, and even in the end, he realizes he did not beat the giant Maw Beast. He held out, and then Roswell came in and did his ooh goa and managed to. I'm sorry.
That's perfect.
Any time that I talk about Ray Chase's performance, I have to quote him because I don't know if you've studied that, but in the Japanese Roswell just does this strong incantation. They go, ooh, goa, something like that.
Yes.
But Ray, he decides, he's like, listen, this guy has mastered all forms of magic. He doesn't have to fucking try to cast the most powerful fire magic. So what if I have him just be like, oh, I'm on the scene. Ooh, goa.
That's amazing.
It's so good for that reason.
That now emanates so fully now. Wow.
That's echoing in my brain forever.
That should be your personal mantra. Anytime that someone asks you to do something and you know it is abso-fucking-lutely within your wheelhouse and you're like, there is no one who can do this better than me, as you're doing it, you need to just kind of do that wink or that snap with your fingers and go, ooh, go on. So,
keeping that in mind.
Thank you for that.
Yes. Oh.
Yeah, the sassiest.
Sorry.
But speaking of that, right, like the sassy clown that you're talking about in season 2, there, as you were mentioning, like there's a lot of back and forth between him and Subaru. The story kind of progresses. Like it's hard to understand initially, as you said before. You didn't rewatch season 2 until very recently, but the way in which the story emerges, were you into ReZero at all beforehand, or were you just like,
I didn't know much about the world. I had kept telling people I want to read the light novel, I want to read the web novel, and I haven't gotten around to it. To give you, I mean, this doesn't excuse the last several years, but to give you an idea of how things are now, I haven't streamed in like a month. I have not touched my Nintendo Switch in like a month.
Wow.
It has been, I literally made a thread about this earlier today, but in exchange for how gratefully busy I am during a time, I'm sure you all to some degree have been following about the strike right now, right?
Yeah.
And it's crazy the way that this timing worked out because I largely was known for video game stuff. Like after ReZero started, I was like, this is it. Just like Bryce Papenbrook had his time of being a lead in many shows. Now that people know I'm Subaru, now it's my time to be a main character in anime. And then nothing for 2 years until JoJo. But in the meantime, in the meantime, my career really kind of pivoted into video games. And now, ironically, at the same time that video games are largely on strike because of the SAG-AFTRA strike, it feels like anime has picked up the slack. I've got Mission Yozakura, I've got ReZero Season 3, I've got Beyblade X, I've got a 4th show that I can't talk about yet because that's not public knowledge.
Let's go!
Right. I'm trying to think of what else I've recorded for. Mashal has been done for a while, so I haven't recorded. Let me check.
I love that show.
There was the brief stint I had on Rurouni Kenshin. I'm trying to see if there's any other anime that I've been working on as of late. But suffice to say, I have been busy even though video games have dried up. But it has come at the cost of having no free time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not saying this to make you feel bad. Please don't take it personally. But as an example, I was able to use the time that I was gained because you ended up having to delay this in order for us to do the podcast episode. I ended up using the time in between to do some more freelance work, to do recording for corporate training scripts that I now need to go back and edit after this podcast episode is done. All of that to say, it wasn't like I suddenly had a couple of free hours to myself. So I estimate that between this podcast and me editing the audio, my free time for today will start at around 11 to 11:30 p.m.
We're really thankful you came on. I saw your tweet today. I was like, oh, fuck, we're going to make it worse. Fuck.
Right.
But we do appreciate your time. And your time is very valuable.
Again, like I said, it's a mix of two things. One is, yes, I could say, another podcast, another interview. I don't have time for this. But are any of you XKCD readers by any chance, the comic?
No.
Not in a long time.
There's a comic called The Lucky 10,000 where it's like, if someone asks me, how do you get into voice acting, or how did you get into voice acting for the 10,000th time? I could look at it two ways. I could go, oh my fucking God, I'm being asked this question again. Why? Or I can go, wow, 10,000 different people are so inspired by what I do that they want to learn how to get into it themselves, you know? Or you look at it as, if I happen to be the 10,000th person to ask someone something, how awful would I feel if that person responded with, oh my God, not this question again? Because I don't know how they answered to the other 9,999 people, you know? This is my moment of knowledge that I want to acquire, and I'm asking someone who knows something I don't because I admire them and want to learn what they know. So, so that where I'm getting with that is, it can be exhausting to do all of these different interviews and podcasts, but I find value in it because to you all, this is a really meaningful time. This is your chance to get insight into something that you may not have because you don't know where to find it otherwise. You don't know what other interviews I've done, what other podcasts I've done. And on the work side of it, like I said, with this strike going on, there are a lot of people who are having to make ends meet another way. So the fact that with a strike going on, I am still doing this very much full time, there's nothing I can be except grateful for it. So
wow. I'm very glad you have a positive outlook so we don't feel like jerks.
Right.
But
I will say it's a thing of it's always the very like nerdy silly thing to say, but it's such an honor to have you on here today because genuinely, and I know how you talked about how Subaru was your most impactful character for you in a lot of ways. ReZero is the most impactful media to me, like ever. And it's if I was sitting like if I was me 5 years ago, I never in a million years thought, wow, one day I'm gonna just talk to the English voice actor of Subaru about voice acting and ReZero, and it's just gonna be a fun, chill time where we're all human beings and we're just talking about it.
Right.
That never could have crossed my mind before. And it's just, it's crazy to think.
I think it's happening in a lot of industries right now. Like when Puss in Boots: The Last Wish came out, I don't know if all of you noticed the explosion of behind the scenes, like animator, freelance artist, animatic artist. There were so many people going, here's this part of the scene that I worked on. Here's the video that I recorded of myself doing the motions so that I could animate over myself or use it as a guideline. It feels like prior to that film, that wasn't really a thing that people did. Like, you could maybe buy The Art of Zootopia in book form, or you could wait for Disney to release a behind-the-scenes thing. But it feels like it's within the last year or two that, like, on social media, I've seen a lot more people going, here's the thing I did for Spider-Verse. Here's the animatic for this scene that I did on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Here's the inspiration I pulled from for it. And I think it's really, really cool to see that all of these creatives, not just the companies publishing the finished product, but all of these creatives are speaking up more often and going, here was my inspiration for this scene. Here's what I thought going into it. Here was how I worked with the director to get this certain feel for it. I don't know if it's a improvement of confidence. I don't know if it's the younger generation going, fuck capitalism, I'm going to speak my piece.
Exactly, Trade secrets.
It could it could even be an aspect of trying to dispel parasocial relationships and just be a human person online, right? Because you were talking about how I don't want to be a celebrity, right? I don't want to be this icon, this idea, this concept, because that doesn't make you a person anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh. So I think all that to say, I just don't think it's unique to voiceover, and I'm glad that it's not unique to voiceover. I think it is something that's happening largely in creative fields as a whole, and I'm very much here for it.
Me too. I think it's so nice to see so many people come together. I mean, there was a period of time over COVID with especially the voice acting community. It was like a little more nerve-wracking to do fan dubs of things. Like, I mean, let's paint it clear. We've done fan dubs of your voices for a freaking project that you work on professionally. And we're here talking to you and having a great conversation where a couple years ago, that might have not been able to happen, or it might not have been as accepted. But it's nice to see that we're having that really nice shift where, we can all talk about these things creatively and in different ways while being like
also
super
completely
chill.
unrelated. But did you say you voice Amelia?
He does, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I do Amelia and Capella.
As you get more excited and your voice pitch raises up, I'm like, you could do a really good Liliana or Anastasia.
Do you know
it's really funny you say that.
Yeah.
No, don't show him! Don't show him!
We were discussing months ago, like if Kyle's ever got the opportunity to audition for ReZero, like we're gonna go for that Liliana role,
right?
I would literally I love the voice actor they casted for Liliana. One, she's a fantastic voice actor. But two, Liliana is my least favorite character in the world because of the web novel. And because of how many hours I spent recording that narration. That was a 4-hour recording process. That was 5 chapters, 3.5-hour video. Never again.
Who's your least favorite?
Liliana in the web novel, not in the anime.
Into the
In the
reason
anime,
behind
she's
that.
wonderful.
Because I was sitting here wondering, this feels like a repeat of Elsa from season 1, where Liliana exists and then goes away, and then no one speaks about her again for the rest of the season.
Just you wait. There will be a set of episodes in the second court, and we will get to know Liliana so well, which took over 300 pages.
Is this gonna be the fucking Ma Beast girl scenario all over again, where it turns out that Liliana, the person behind all of it, and they were all attacking the wrong core when it was her they were supposed to be focusing on?
It was her all along.
It's like the Darth Jar Jar theory, where it's like it was actually Jar Jar Binks moving everything behind the scenes.
It's gonna be a case where it's like, oh, Liliana is a living version of the gospel, where whatever she sings comes to pass, and Subaru has to go back and act like the hand with the seagull beak going, shut.
And that's why he thinks her lyrics are shit.
Right? Speaking of which, I assume y'all heard my fandub of Subaru's rap, yes?
We did. It was excellent.
I am. Go ahead.
That was what was going to be my transition a couple of minutes ago, was we did hear it. And when you were mentioning that you thought Kyle's could do a Liliana, we took her lines from that clip and had her record it herself for the same thing to go along with yours. We loved it so much.
Oh my gosh. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's not that cool. It's not good. But your part was fantastic. I did it for the funds. It's on Twitter, of course. The cesspool that it is.
Show me. Let me retweet it.
No. I will. I tagged you. I am. If I am anything, I am a coward. Okay, I was in a call once with
I was in a call once too. It was fucking awful. There were 4 other people, and they kept talking about how good I was, and I felt really awkward. And I couldn't wait for it to be over.
I'm gonna find the nearest cliff. Go yeet. There's no RBD for me. Fuck. Jackie Lastra was in a call, and I got the opportunity, and she did some coaching with voice acting, which was very rare opportunity. And I was just sitting, jumping around in my seat for half an hour, and she said my voice was cute. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. Muted and just screamed and ran around. Thanks, Connor, for posting it.
All right. Retweet.
Oh, geez.
Hashtag.
No, please. No.
ReZero, S3, hashtag fandub, and retweet.
He retweeted. He didn't even listen to hour of it.
Yeah, you're endorsing something that you don't know.
Fun fact for you, Sean. There was, I don't even remember. It was 2 years ago. And I geeked out over it. You announced that you were in...
Go ahead.
Oh, no. Go.
I was going to say, when people go, do you remember what you did 2 years ago? I'm just sitting here
no.
No.
You will not remember this. No, I was just some rando person. You got casted for a Spider-Man game. I posted the Spider-Man meme. You retweeted it, blew me up, and I had people in my DMs do you know him? I was like, no, I just really enjoy his stuff. I don't know why he retweeted this, but I'm very happy. And it was the weirdest moment in my life. And now here we are. Now we're talking.
What was the meme? What was the meme,
It was the Spider-Man 3-way head meme. I think it was I don't even remember what it was. But it was a Spider-Man meme for a Spider-Man thing. And I was like, great, this is very canonical. You're like, this is funny. Haha. And then everyone just kept flooding into my DMs, and I'm like, I just posted a funny meme. It was enjoyed. I don't know him. He doesn't know me.
Well, here's something. Here's something a little secret for you all. Don't publish this on the article. This is like a little secret bit for you.
Oh my God! Do you want me to stop recording this part?
Sure.
Okay, tell me when to press record. Fuck you, YouTube. Bye, guys. You can trim out the best, but just now we know we are back on book. Hello again, YouTube. Fuck you. You missed all the good shit.
No.
Our community's gonna be so pissed.
They returned by cast. They at some point, unknowingly, they died because they like, oh my God, this is peak. I can't go on, and they died, and then they returned, but they returned from a point after everything else had happened, and they forgot it.
Oh,
we'll just say,
are you legally allowed to make a Call of the Witch sound or no?
Oh,
beautiful! I'm going to use that. Thank you. Beautiful. Okay, well, that'll be the transition noise. Thank you, Sean.
We had the white whale on as a special guest, but he farted, and then we spent half the interview trying to remember each other's names.
Gluttony got to us a bit too quickly.
Gluttonous eating. Yum. That's okay. At least we use fake names. We love that. Okay. Here's our final question, because Sean needs to go rest, and we need to not take up his time. We have a particular question, as we also love Persona 5 Royal specifically. I still haven't finished the game, so of course no spoilers for everyone else. But we wanted to ask, actually I think I'm going to let Connor take this over, because you wrote the question.
Yeah, so I'm a big P5 fan and was going through, recognized your voice as Mishima in it because I was just getting into ReZero.
And Mr. Ono, let's not forget Mr. Ono.
Yeah, Mr. Ono from P3, of course, but specifically for Mishima with 5, he is a character that, if you didn't know, a lot of fans see him as like a toxic Redditor character. And Kyle's feels very differently. So I wanted to ask how you see him as.
Mishima, my beloved.
Mishima, well, first of all, I don't care what all y'all fuckers think of him, because he's the best support ability in the game, and you're going to max out his confidant anyway.
He is required, yes.
You are correct. Do what you know you're going to do anyway. That's right. But,
I love him.
I find, like, maybe I can't make an argument that Mishima is not an insufferable Redditor, but what I like about him as a character is that he has layers to him in ways that a lot of characters who go through the things that he does often don't. Mm-hmm. The big example being, he is a survivor of abuse for whom the fact that he survived abuse does not become his entire personality. Mm-hmm. That's already a huge, huge thing. There's countless examples of media where a character's entire existence appears to be, I was sexually assaulted, or I was, this happened to me when I was younger and I've never quite gotten over it. Now, that is not me demeaning, the grieving and recovery process, but just saying that, like, they're never really given the chance to be anything other than the person that this thing happened to,
Yeah.
In the same vein, this is the part that I appreciate so much. Mishima being a survivor of abuse does not prevent him from having flaws. He does not magically become this person who survived and is now all better and is totally strong and can help the heroes. He is someone who survives and goes, okay, now I can become my own person. Who the hell am I? And he ends up feeling these sensations of jealousy, of envy, of bitterness, looking at what the Phantom Thieves are doing and how important they are and going, I want to be that. I want to be that meaningful to people. I want to be able to have that kind of change on the world. Why can't I do that? And he covets it so much that he goes from one side of the spectrum of feeling helpless and undesirable and meaningless to being so adamant about being important that it ends up getting in the way, and the Phantom Thieves have to steal his own heart in order to get him back on the right track. And I think it's so cool that a character can visit both sides of that spectrum before finding his happy equilibrium of going, you know what, maybe I can't be this thing that I want to be. And maybe that bums me out. Maybe it's, even though it's for the best, I'm allowed to feel sad about that. But that doesn't mean I can't be important in my own way. And here's how I'm going to do that. And I so immensely appreciate that a character like him is allowed to go from being the person in need to being the person who's empowered to being the person who abuses that empowerment and goes too far with it, but has the people who care enough about him to help bring him back, not to abandon him, but to say, we care about you, and that's why we're stopping you before you go off the deep end. And I think that level of complexity for a character like him is often overlooked, but I so appreciate it.
I agree. Yes.
Yeah, that was really insightful. Thank you.
Yeah, that made me completely rethink the character in a lot of ways. I mean, because in that sense, you're right. He's not. What's the word? Martyred for what he went through. It doesn't make him like a saint for going through these things. But what it does do is allow you to tell an interesting story of a complicated human being.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Of course.
And I think that's about our wrap-up time then.
Yeah, otherwise
this
we'll
has been
babble on.
amazing.
Thank you so much for joining us, Sean. This was genuinely a dream come true and also so much fun.
Yeah. I hope it feels like it was worth the time investment.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
We
hope it does for you too.
for hours on this podcast about ReZero. This is the least of our time.
I have
being
edited
wasted.
down 4 hours of their podcast before.
Anyway, befriend me on Neopets. My username is VA Sonic Mega. I am addicted. I do my dailies every day. I would love more people to send stuff to and for people to send me plushies for my gallery. You can follow me on Blue Sky under Sonic Mega. I do technically have a Twitter, but we all know by November 15th, that's going to become a fucking wasteland.
Yep.
My Twitch is Sonic Mega as well, but that is on hiatus. But my promise to you is if I'm not streaming, it's because I'm hunkering down with work and I want everything that I do to be just as good as y'all thought episode 51 was. Outside of that, it's been an honor, and like I said, I'm stupid grateful to be doing this. I'm stupid grateful to be doing this full time. I hope to be doing this for as long as humanly possible, as long as my passion is still there. And I appreciate you all for having the drive, the energy, the passion, the commitment, and the enthusiasm that makes all of this worth.
Thank you for all your hard work. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Goodbye, YouTube. Smell you
Bye.
later. Goodbye, everybody.
Oh, wait, before we go, I need everyone to know I can return my...